his feet were bleeding by the end of that game.
Hello and welcome back to the Double Clutch podcast. I'm one of your usual hosts, Mike Miller. Tonight, once again, I'm joined by Tom Hall. How's it going, buddy?
Good evening. I'm all right, thanks. How are you?
Stressed, mate, as you well know. I've had some mad technical issues over the last hour and now suffering from rage. But enough about that. Joining us as well tonight is Mr. Josh Coyne.
I pledge to be the co-host who seeks not to divide, but to unify.
Excellent. Well, you can unify it if my feed cuts out again and I disappear. And apologies to Matt, who's going to have to edit this audio through a weird little Bluetooth £15 headset. Good luck to you on that one, buddy. And we have another special guest this week. He is 20% of NBA UK fans, 50% of the Throwback Store podcast, 100% legend. It's Ginger Shaq. Welcome.
Thank you. Mama, I've made it. I'm on a Double Clutch podcast.
I can't believe this is the first one you've been on. Well, how are you guys getting on with lockdown? Let's start with how you're getting on with lockdown. We're now, 4-5 days into it? Is it business as usual for you? Shaq, I'll come to you first.
I mean, to be fair, it would normally be business as usual because I work in the social care sector. But I have a week's annual leave. So I'm getting to experience the lockdown like normal people do. And it's a bit boring, isn't it? I've watched Tiger King. I've done that.
A bit late to the game on that one.
I've built a pizza oven.
You're watching Game of Thrones.
That's true. I'll take it back.
I've built a pizza oven, and I'm currently trying to see how many, if I can get on first name terms with 90% of the Uber Eats drivers. So yeah, lockdown's all right. To be fair, not bad.
Nice.
Fair enough. Tom, how's your lockdown?
It's all right. I think I needed it because I had a bit of a hiatus where my garden was untouched. So I'm now back in the garden. It's looking exquisite again, ready for next year. So that was okay last week while we were off work. Back in work this week, just back to normal, knackered again. But yeah, fortunate to still be in a job, so no complaining from me.
Excellent. So we've had gardening and a Tiger King reference. Josh, your lockdown. Tell us about it.
It's different from the last time because the last time I threw myself right into running, but there's a key difference this time round in the fact that it's absolutely blisteringly cold every time I go outside. So I'm getting fatter. That's basically the overall analysis of lockdown so far. Excellent.
Okay, fair enough. Let's move on to the reason why people are actually here. Then we're going to talk some NBA. So you'll forgive me for looking down. That's because my topic and show run is not on my computer screen, which is nicely in front of me. It's on a tiny phone in front of my hands. So the restart has been tentatively agreed on as starting on December the 22nd. There's an agreement for 72 games. Safety first, obviously. It's not going to be a bubble. Shaq, are you concerned that this thing won't go ahead?
With a start date that's still 2020, I'll accept anything. I think it will go ahead. I think in America they're attempting quite a few more different sports. I accepted the bubble, but I don't know how I feel about empty arenas. I think that will be, slightly a bit obscure, do we say? But yeah, I think they should hopefully get it going.
Josh, do you think there's enough time for guys to get into game shape? We've got training camp starting December 1st, which is 3 weeks away? And then we've got not long till the 22nd.
Well, for a lot of teams, I think it will be almost the opposite. They just won't have the time to get out of game shape from the bubble. But I'm sure plenty of them will give it a go. It's quite a physical ask, isn't it, for a lot of these players to start this year. But, as with everything, it's kind of unprecedented situation. It just seems mad to me that it's going to be even called the 20 to 21 season because there's only going to be a handful of games this year. But yeah, it's quite the turnaround, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in terms of these players' health throughout the season.
Yeah, obviously there are teams that haven't played since March. That's a lot of rust to shake off. How bad do you think some of these teams are going to look, Tom?
I think a lot of these guys will have been in the gym anyway. I think compared to the teams that were in the playoffs, I can see those guys resting quite a lot of their players, especially like the Lakers and the Heat. So I don't imagine it'll be too much of an imbalance between the teams when they come back. I think it'll be quite a level playing field. I just can't believe that we're talking about the league coming back in like just over a month's time and we've still not had the draft or free agency or any of those things going. So I think they said that the moratorium's going to open on the 16th of November. So we've got 2 days of trades and stuff before the draft. And then it's just going to be a bizarre, manic month for all the NBA fans, but I'm game for it.
With the players' health thing, it's quite interesting, isn't it? Because you hear a lot about players sometimes getting in worse shape throughout the season. So I don't think it's exclusively kind of people play themselves into shape throughout the season. Sometimes people need that off season, and maybe even people who are recovering from injuries or whatever needed the extended period, and maybe it'll be a godsend for some of these guys. You hear people like, I think Bradley Beal spoke about it as a bit of a blessing in disguise. And I think that will apply to quite a few of these guys who haven't played since March.
Yeah, quite a few teams have held mini camps as well. We saw the Bulls having one that was quite big on social media. So there has been opportunities for these teams without games to at least build some kind of chemistry and cohesion. Is there not a risk? I say there's not a risk. There's obviously a risk. Like, I loved the bubble. No positive tests, and I get that it would be very difficult to do a whole season in a bubble. But going into or opening up 29 arenas for the sake of playing seems a little bit, and I know it won't be in front of fans, but it seems like a logistical nightmare for keeping players safe. Is anyone else like bricking it that we're just going to suddenly get like a breakout?
Yeah, I mean, these are the worries that you had with football over here. Is that people are kind of coming in and out of their, of their family lives and then coming into the arena every day. Fortunately, we've actually seen, a slight kind of at least the mirage of control in Premier League football, and it seems to be like they are acting quite firmly on it in terms of, isolate immediately. This person's going to be away for like 2 weeks, away from the squad. And they seem to be acting quite quickly when it happens. If they can at least get to that level where, we hear of a handful of cases like per month at the top level, then that would be considered a success to me, because we're sure as hell not getting a, no COVID season like we almost did in the bubble, where it was almost perfect.
And I think I've just developed like an irrational trust of Adam Silver. So like the NBA has been so good for leading the way on all of these things, whether it was the Black Lives Matter movement or the way they've dealt with coronavirus. They've been so good that I think I trust whatever decision they come to over the next few weeks, or they came to last week. I think they will have put so much thought into it, and it will have been based on so much evidence from what they've seen in other sports that I'm confident in backing whatever decision that Adam Silver makes.
I think obviously one thing I have to think about is obviously if teams, so say for example, we know where our hotspots are in this country. If you're a traveling team, are you going to be a little bit dubious to be attending a game, for example, in Arizona to go and play the Suns? Are you going to in Phoenix? Are you going to be a little bit like, bit of a strain here? Like I think I'll sit this one out, because they do have their families to consider as well.
Mm.
Yes, it's a difficult one. I think the bubble as well was magic in a way. Like that's not a pun intended or anything like that. No, there was something special about it, and I don't know. I just think that this is going to be stretching how we interpret pro sports for the foreseeable future, and I guess that's the flex you need to make to survive in this global pandemic, which is sucky to say the least.
Another thing to consider. Sorry to butt in, but another thing to consider is the fact that fresh exclusive news today is the talk of the development and potential kind of widespread vaccine that might be manufactured. And if we've learned anything over time, it's that these athletes will, for obvious reasons, get preferential treatment in terms of their health. They've got as much support as they need, and I think if they can do that, maybe distribute the vaccine to some of these players, that isn't beyond the realm of possibility. Then those worries are completely out the window.
Well, 90% of them are.
Yeah, there we go.
um, so, predictions then. Do you think the NBA is going to start on December 22nd? Shaq?
I think so.
Yeah.
Or Tom? Yep.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I think it's
Cool.
shown
So it
that
means-
money talks. Like, they've gone through all these deals. The players didn't want to come back, but then they found out they're going to lose so much money if they leave it any later that it's got to happen soon.
So how good is that going to make your respective Christmases?
Oh man, I was thinking about that. That has almost become part of the tradition. It's as much of a tradition as it is kind of eating way too many roast potatoes, feeling like you're going to pass out, and kind of then once it reaches the certain part of the day, you get to kind of slyfully scurry over to the corner of the room and become antisocial for the rest of the day. That's what the festive season's all about for me.
Shaq, big Christmas for you then?
I mean, basically, is it Christmas if you haven't got pigs in blankets and pick and rolls? Do you know what I mean?
Nice.
Unbelievable.
And Tom, you got into trouble last year, didn't you? You had to like bargain for what games you were allowed to.
Yeah,
watch.
there's a lot of debates going on, but I think there's a lot of potential this year for it to go even more downhill and offend a lot more. Well, offend less people, but in a more serious way. Because if it's just me and my wife and we can't share households, then she's not going to be too happy when I push her away at like 6-7 o'clock to then have a whole night of NBA action. But
Just show her that Derrick Rose shot over Pau Gasol Christmas Day 2013. She'll be in.
she'll buy in. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic. Just before we do, if you're not following us, we are at Double Clutch UK on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you're not watching live on Twitch, it's twitch.tv/Double Clutch UK. We have a Discord community. Come and join us. It's discord.me/Double Clutch. That one doesn't have a UK on the end of it. Thanks, Kirk. But also, thanks, Kirk, for producing this. We can't do it without
Love you, Kirk.
So please don't just hang up. Topic 2, the Jrue is out there. Jrue Holiday on the trading block. Let's go through some landing spots because I know that Tom has a whole host of trade ideas which will fill up the next 3 hours of your life. I know that Ginger Shaq has dropped a Throwback Store podcast episode 4 earlier this evening which covered this, which I haven't yet had time to watch for obvious technical issues I've been having. And Josh, you just love to talk hoops. So I'm going to come to each of you one at a time, and then we'll let Tom run with it for the next 45 minutes. So we'll start with Tom. What's your best trade situation where you can see him landing, and if you've got a trade deal, what you could put together for him?
Just to give a bit of context, I know I'm going to start rambling right from the off, but I got home from work at 5 o'clock and then just lay in bed till about 6:30, coming out with different trades to about 16 different teams in the league. So settle in for this one. I'm
not sure what that says about you, to be honest.
I just love anything to do with trades. I'm going for. I think the first one I'm going to go for is a Denver trade. So with Denver sending Gary Harris and Will Barton, and then probably a 2021 pick as well, because I just think that gives New Orleans enough stuff to carry on not contending, but doing all right with Zion at the moment, as well as giving him that upside with the pick. And Gary Harris, I think, is still improving a little bit. So that's how I'd sell it to them.
I had a very similar trade, actually, but it involved PJ Dozier to make up the numbers and JJ Redick going alongside him. But that's great minds. That was your first one. Josh, where do you think is a potential landing spot for Jrue Holiday?
Well, firstly, Mike, I don't want to break the fourth wall too much, but I want to commend you on two things. Firstly, that's adapting to do this on your iPad. So round of applause for you on that. But then it's on the shared document for today's podcast. I want to commend you on the Jrue is out there. That's fantastic. Fantastic punish.
Yeah, no one else could see that.
No. So the big one that you mentioned there, Tom, in terms of a suitor is the Denver Nuggets. The issue that I have with that one is that I don't think the Nuggets will be willing to give up the assets that will actually satisfy the Pelicans. And I think that the prize that everyone keeps going on about in this trade is Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah.
Dan Gilbert's a really smart guy. He knows that he's not against the ropes on this one. The ball really is in his court. So if the Nuggets come knocking, I suspect that he'll be firmly in the camp of Michael Porter Jr. or nothing, and kind of reject any package that doesn't involve MPJ. Either way, the Nuggets, I think, are quite an interesting partner for sure, because they have a lot of guys who fall in line with the timeline of Zion and Ingram. And that, for that reason, maybe if they do include Michael Porter Jr., I think that really is truly a suitor that would satisfy both sides. So I agree with you on the Nuggets being the suitor, but I think it has to include Michael Porter Jr.
It's not a bad shout. I don't know if you'd give him up though. This guy,
so.
Obviously, they picked him low enough in the draft because of his injuries, and he has had some horrific injuries. But what we saw from him in the bubble, this guy could be, an absolute steal.
Yeah,
he's 2 seasons.
He's really special, isn't he? But I think it comes into like, what window do you consider yourself to be in? If you're Denver, do you think that Jrue Holiday or Michael Porter Jr. are going to help you if you consider yourself to be in a win now situation? And I think the answer in terms of defensive versatility, overall game, is definitely Jrue Holiday. But once again, it really just depends where they consider them to be at this point. And considering their relative success this year, then why wouldn't they think, let's make the jump now?
I guess part of that question is like whether you see Denver as somewhere that is going to want to re-sign in a year's time, because you're not going to want to give up someone like Porter Jr. if he turns out to be great and then Holiday walks after a year. You're going to look like a right mug. So that definitely comes into it.
Yeah,
I don't think he'll walk. He's got 27 mil player option. I don't know if he will get that elsewhere. One wrinkle to consider as well in the MPJ is if they roll out this vaccine, is he going to want to take it? But that's probably another story. Ginger Shaq, your thoughts on a Denver as a suitor for Jrue?
I mean, obviously, the main three that are kind of bouncing about, obviously, you've mentioned the Nuggets. I covered the idea of the Nets on the Throwback podcast and sort of said that they'd basically have to give up far too many assets to acquire him. So I really thought about it earlier, and a curveball situation was his return to Philadelphia.
Nice.
And the way that I seen that was to move Tobias Harris and Matisse and potentially reunite, obviously, him and maybe some other cannon fodder from the Pelicans that they don't really want. And just maybe have him in Philadelphia, because I've exhausted all the options of looking at significant different ones, the Heat and the Nuggets and things like that. And I thought I'd just come with something a bit different and bring back the rookie.
I definitely agree in terms of Matisse would be an amazing piece in New Orleans to fit in that timeline that I spoke about with Zion and Ingram. But Tobias Harris is always thrown around as the contract that nobody wants. I feel like that would be a bit of a punisher for New Orleans, but it's definitely a really interesting conversation.
They're probably in the position where they could absorb that extra salary, despite the fact he's on a different trajectory, just because they would have that young core. But it's an interesting one. Josh, did you have an alternative landing spot?
There's one that really enticed me, but it's for me it's kind of a who says no situation. It's been dismissed by a load of people, but I think that Jrue to the Warriors, if they can make it work, isn't like completely stupid in the way that some people think it is. I think that the Warriors' aim is to go, to make the ultimate jump from out of the playoffs to title ready. And the defense and versatility of Jrue definitely makes that happen alongside Stephen Clay, and also gives them the ability to play off the ball a little bit more, which is obviously moi. Then on the other side, the Pelicans could take on Wiggins, who is serviceable. I don't know what's the right way to describe Wiggins. I don't know.
Crap.
He he adds something to Zion's growth timeline, but this depends, solely on whether the Pelicans actually like what they see in this year's draft class.
They have got that Minnesota pick next year, which if they did want to keep the second pick this year, they could always offer that, which I think is top 3 protected. So it's quite a good likelihood that that'd translate to next year, and then they could get in what is a lot stronger of a draft class. That could be more of an appeal than this year, if anything.
Yeah.
What would you think about a trade to the Bucks? The Bucks have struggled with a second ball handler. Eric Bledsoe's never really cut it in the playoffs for sure. So what about if we did a trade there? Jrue Holiday for Eric Bledsoe. Bledsoe's only about 15.5 mil, and it's 4 years, which isn't great, but then that's not too bad of a contract to move on its own. You could throw in Ilyasova, who's a vet who can show you guys the ropes. Robin Lopez, another vet who can set. Look, they're not there to contribute. Yeah, they're just making up the money. You're getting off the big contract, and you could get picks thrown in there. There's probably going to need to be some more fodder in there to make the money work, but that would get the Bucks the extra help they need in terms of ball handling, secondary scoring, and it would really give the Pelicans the chance to turn the complete offense over to Lonzo.
I just think compared to what else is going to be out there, like the only good things, if you look on the Bucks side of it, what's going into that trade is if you put DiVincenzo in there, he's all right. But then all the picks that they're going to have going forward are going to be like 28, 29, 30 because they're going to be at the top of the standings anyway. Even more
assuming you trade for a pick that's not sort of 6 years down the line, post 2021, when Giannis could be just.
So I guess it depends what else is on the table for the Pelicans, but I can't see them taking anything from the Bucks.
That's fair. It was just an idea. Anyone got any other suggestions they want to come up with before we let Tom go ham on this one?
No, for me, Tom, absolutely go for it, mate.
Go on then, Tom. We'll kick back and relax.
I'll rattle
don't
through.
Keep us for too long.
I'll rattle through them. You guys just give me a quick yes.
Yes or no?
Do you want me to put a beat behind it, Tom?
Yes, please. Yeah.
No, I haven't got one.
I'll try and rhyme it. Brilliant. Okay. This one was a bit of an off-the-wall one, so I quite like it for the Timberwolves. So if the Timberwolves gave up James Johnson for salary, Jarrett Culver, and not this year's number 1 pick, maybe 17, because I got the 17th pick from Brooklyn, and the 2023 first as well. Then they'd have Russell, Holiday, and Towns on the same team, which would be nice.
What's in it for the Pelicans? What's in it for the Pelicans?
So they get 2 future first rounders and Jarrett Culver, who's decent.
But pass.
Okay.
Pass. Why wouldn't they offer this year's pick as well? Like, if they're going to stitch him out of everything, why not give him this year's pick?
Yeah, I don't think they give that up, but I was trying to Russell, Holiday, Towns, and the number 1 pick from this year, but never mind. Dallas, if we put him next to Luka, so you throw in Tim Hardaway Jr., Delon Wright, and a 2023 first rounder.
I don't love that for the Pelicans, but
is Tim a free agent this summer? Summer,
quite possibly.
It's November. Oh dear.
This winter.
Oh no,
there's a Sacramento one. Go on, Josh.
That's an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's absolutely tantalising to consider him next to Luka. But unfortunately, I think David Griffin would put the phone down on that one.
Yeah, they probably need more first rounders to chuck into it. I tried to look at the Lakers, couldn't really do it for them. I really wanted him on Indiana to have the 3 Holidays on the same roster, but couldn't do it for them either.
I looked at that as well.
I said that.
The only way I could do it is by taking Miles Turner back. And half of me was like, okay, well, that solves the issue of Sabonis or Turner. But then that just left a massive hole in Indiana's front court that
Yeah. How about we go for Memphis? We throw in... I'm going to try and really sell Gorgie Jang.
You're starting it with a laugh now. It's just...
Because I started it with Gorgie Jang, that's why. Dylan Brooks, who I really like. He's only on $11 million a year. And a 2021 first, which could be decent from that team.
Sorry, but I was so distracted by how much the name Dylan Brooks really exaggerates your accent there. So I actually forgot to listen to the rest of it.
Brooks, yeah.
Give us it again.
You need to add that to your soundboard, Kirk. Dylan Brooks.
No, these trades all feel quite one-sided, and maybe that's just a testament to Jrue Holiday's talent.
It depends what else is on the table, though, because he, like you say, he could walk after this year. So I don't think anyone's going to be throwing too much at him. But maybe that's just me.
He's not going to walk. He's not going to walk from 27 mil. He's what, 31?
Yeah, he will
32. He'll be 33 by the time that expires. 27 mil. Is anyone paying him 27 mil?
He could do an Al Horford and take the longer, slightly less contract. But I don't know.
Turned out well for Al. Doing brilliantly in Philadelphia.
Nobody else. But the other one was Phoenix, some combination of Ricky Rubio, Kelly Oubre, and the number 10 pick this year. That's
the most positive one for the Pelicans you've said.
Okay.
Does the money work out on that one? Because that's a really good one, and that was one that I was considering for someone else. That was the Suns package that's being thrown around for someone else recently, and it is a nice return, isn't it? But
Rubio must be on about 16 mil.
Yeah,
it's about that.
And does that really match, the ambition of New Orleans of where they want to be in 3 or 4 years? I'm not entirely sure. How many picks did you include?
So it's just the number 10 this year, which isn't great. But
the issue I'd have is that Rubio is still too good to be the secondary runner of the offense off the bench. But god damn, those lobs would be disgusting. That highlight reel for that team would be absolutely insane.
And defensively, I mean, those are two of the most excellent, point guard on the defensive end in the league. So it would be interesting. But yeah, like I said, isn't Rubio 31 years old now? I don't know. I don't know if it makes sense for New Orleans in the long term. But it's a nice short-term option.
Yeah, and I guess it depends whether you see the overlap between Oubre and Ingram being a problem at that position. But you can never have too many wings, so it's not too bad.
No.
Is that it? Have you got any more? Is there another random one?
I've got one more, but this is a bit desperate on my behalf. So.
This is the desperate one.
This is the desperate one, yeah.
And the Memphis one wasn't.
I love the Memphis one. I live for Dylan Brooks. So.
Who was it? It was. Oh, there we go. Dylan
Brooks. The Sacramento one was like a Buddy Hield trade, but I just don't think that there's any way Holiday would want to stay in Sacramento afterwards. So they're probably not going to give up as much for him as everybody else.
Solid.
Oh, see, I think you get 2 seasons out of him. If you're getting rid of Hield, you're sticking with Bogdanovic
and Fox, yeah,
and you've got Fox, obviously. I like that, and I like that.
Oh, don't take that.
I don't think that's as much as he was. No, I like that one.
You're ringing me with that offer. You're ringing me with that offer, and it's on a Zoom call. It will be completely user not found. I'm not answering it.
Yeah,
that's an awful offer.
Hang on, which one are you? Are you the Kings or the Pelicans?
The Pelicans. I wouldn't take that.
You wouldn't take Buddy Hield?
No.
You know what? The main reason I would be well up for that if I was the Kings is because of the implications that Mike spoke about with Bogdanovic. That's the kind of biggest plus side for me. Is that really difficult decision is removed from your future, and you get a really solid player in return. And Buddy Hield hasn't been historically happy in Sacramento. Man, it's tough.
Well, I can't see the Discord channel because I'm on an iPad. Has anyone come up with any suggestions in there? If not, we can keep the ball rolling. No one's got Discord up, have they? Let's say Discord. I mean Twitch. This is where it is all sort of exploding for me now. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to the next topic, which we kind of touched on a little bit there, which is free agency. I'd like to know your most intriguing free agency prospect and where you can see him going. I'll go to Shaq first. Who on the big long list of Underwhelming free agents this year. That's really insulting. Not quite premier free agency list. Who are you intrigued by?
Demar Derozan.
Okay.
Was the one that intrigued me the most.
Okay.
And I can see him landing in LA.
Wow, which one?
Clippers.
Homecoming.
Flipping it.
Yeah. I've just got a feeling that the Clippers are gonna internally blow up some stuff and work out maybe a sign-in trade for DeMar DeRozan.
Sign and trade. Okay.
Wow.
Did you have anyone in? Have you gone this far? How far down the rabbit hole have you gone? Do you have someone in mind for the sign and trade?
We're relatively far down the rabbit hole, and it did involve moving Paul George.
Flipping it. That's nuts.
For DeRozan.
And Patrick Beverley.
Oh wow. Anything else with
Spurs fans are like right now.
Yeah.
Was there anything else going back?
Or
just DeRozan.
George, so that's what you need, really, isn't it? But no, yeah. So going back, I was gonna have. I can't even remember who I had written down. But I had somebody else. It was like 2 players for 2 players.
Okay.
You'd have to make the money work somewhere.
But like DeMar DeRozan, just in general, I'd like to see him in LA. I'd certainly enjoy that.
Man, what a difference a year makes. If you had said DeRozan for Paul George last year, we would have kicked you off the Twitch. But this the recent months haven't been kind to playoff P.
Haven't.
I just think that's fascinating. I don't know how much money that DeMar DeRozan is going to command this season, this offseason, because obviously the style of the game has passed him by to a degree. Like, he's still able to do what he does and put up numbers, but it's not in what is now considered the sort of status quo for how to play the game. He doesn't spread the floor well enough, as we all know. And I just don't know how much that's going to impact his value in the off season. It seems to me like, are you going to want to pay big bucks for? He must be. I think he's like 32 now. Guy who doesn't play the way the game is, being played at the minute. I don't know. He is an intriguing one. I'll give that to you. Yep, I wanted you most intriguing. He is intriguing. I'll accept that, Ginger Shaq. Josh, who's your most intriguing free agent?
Well, we spoke about him earlier on in the podcast. I think that he's someone that has only been on a bad team in his career, and I feel like it's underestimated how much he would help a good team, and I think that'd be a great deal. My eye is on Bogdan Bogdanovic, who is set to become, as we said, a restricted free agent, and the Kings are reported, apparently, I think it was Zach Lowe that might have reported it, to be looking for a sign and trade. In which they'd be willing. The Milwaukee Bucks are a possible suitor, and the Milwaukee Bucks supposedly would be willing to take on the Harrison Barnes contract in a package. Those are two players that would really help this Bucks team. And they make no bones about it. This is a period of time in which the Bucks absolutely have to immediately find the appropriate help to play alongside Giannis, otherwise he's going to possibly walk, and that's the franchise back to square one. So I think that if you can find a way to add unbelievable shooting to him, and once again, like I said, if you put Bogdanovic in a good team, I honestly think it's underestimated how much of a difference he would make, alongside Giannis taking up so much of the space. Harrison Barnes would be able to do a job on both ends. So I think that's an interesting one for me, and it'll be really, really, I'm excited to see where he ends up.
That'd leave the Kings pretty stripped for shooting then, because we all know Buddy Hield wants out as well. So if they lost him and Barnes and Bogdanovic, it'd just be Fox and that's it.
This would just appease him, though, wouldn't it? Because the whole issue is they benched him for Bogdanovic, and they turned the offense over to Bogdanovic when Fox went out. So by getting rid of him, you're saying, it's all right, buddy, we love you. We gave you 84
Please reply
million
to my text.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they paid him all that money, and then they, realized they'd paid the wrong guy the money. I think is the general idea in Sacramento. That Bogdanovic is the better player at this juncture. And obviously, with Fox I believe Fox has got a massive extension coming up. Is it?
Next year, yeah.
We touched on it earlier on. They can't afford to pay both of them. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see if they would need to pay Bogdan, his worth in the open market. So it's fascinating. There are so many ways this one could turn out.
Did anyone pose who might go back the other way from the books? Can't say books. Bucks.
The answer is no.
Fair enough. Tom, who have you got? Who's your intriguing free agent?
Please don't laugh, because I'm genuinely serious. Aaron Baines, the big Australian. I just love.
Just in case we didn't know who he was.
All of Australia.
All of Australia, yeah. I just love the man. I think he's shown over the past 2 or 3 years that his value has gone from someone who was like back end of the Spurs bench to like massive important piece for the Celtics, and played a really important part on this Suns team that made a run towards the end of the season. So he's going to go into next season probably during his prime, even though he's just the wrong side of 30, but showing that he can still, he's now got the 3-pointer added to his game, and he can go against anyone at the centre spot, which a lot of teams are going to need on the cheap. Whether he'll go for the cheap, I don't know. I think he's on that 5 million last year, but he'll probably get a little bit more than that going forward. So Aaron Baines for me.
Yeah, he immediately he fills a spot that many contending teams need at this point. So I agree, it's really interesting.
Is there anywhere in particular you think he will land? And if you say Boston, I'm just going to throw something at the screen.
I would take him back at Boston in a heartbeat.
Of course you would take him back, but come on.
I honestly don't know. I think, like Josh said, I think you'll be struggling to find a contender that isn't like willing to take him on, because I don't think he'll command a ridiculous amount of money. And he's someone that is, no one can guard Anthony Davis, but he is a body that is big that you can throw out there, and he's not going to do a terrible job. So I think a lot of teams will be lucky to have him.
Clippers. I think that he fits quite a something they need. There were times where they got surprisingly, for this team that kind of got built up as a team set on their toughness and their aggressive identity. There were times where actually they looked pretty lackluster and feeble last year when it mattered. And if you look at the difference that it made for Los Angeles, obviously they have two of the best players in the world, but when they needed it, they had bigs coming in doing the job, experienced bigs coming in and doing, filling a role that needs to be done every game, especially in the playoffs. So I think Clippers, brilliant fit for Aaron Baines, and it's something they need.
Cool. I'm going to throw out Jeremy Grant. The epitome of 3-and-D. I think he did really well in the bubble. I've never seen a guy throw himself in front of so many players. Most of the time they get called blocking fouls, but he's so close to drawing charges every time. He's averaged almost 40% from 3 for the past 2 years. I don't think the Nuggets are going to be able to afford to keep him. I think there's plenty of spaces he can go, and I would like to see someone like Memphis go for him. They've got a lot of cap room this summer. They could go for a few. I've got a list of other options they could go for as well as him. I'm thinking like guys like Davis Bertans or Joe Harris, guys that help spread the floor and will really benefit from the open looks that Ja Morant's going to get. I've cheated. I'm rebuilding the Grizzlies, and that's who I'm signing this summer.
My favourite part of that, Mike, is that two of the pros that you gave for him were he fouls a lot and he's really expensive.
He's not expensive. He's going to be about 18 mil. I think that's dirt cheap in this league.
Okay, too expensive for his team, and
his team.
And he draws a lot of almost charges.
He gets the charges. It's just that you see everything else. They call the fouls. I think he gets a hard go of it, to be fair. But yeah, well pointed out. I argued that ineffectively. Cool. Let's move on to some 2K chat then. So 2K21, Ginger Shaq probably won't be sleeping tonight whilst he awaits the arrival of his new Xbox tomorrow. Do you know when it's coming, or is it just at some point between the hours of 9 and 9?
DHL were lovely, and they said it will be here between 7 and 8
a.m.
Yeah,
that's good.
8 p.m.
And it's just clicked while you booked the week off.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, like I had the week off anyway. Like I booked this week off anyway, and then everything just kind of fell in place. Then lockdown happened, so that equally helped. But no, hopefully this time tomorrow, I should be in a Xbox Series X NBA 2K21 coma, surrounded by happiness and joy.
Excellent. Okay, so so it's out tomorrow, obviously on Xbox. What's it, X Series? You said. I don't even know what they're all called now. I know it's PS5 because that's nice and easy. It's just numeric. I have no idea what the Xbox is. And then PS5, I think we're getting some dodgy release date for that, aren't we? Normally it's out on the 12th everywhere except the UK. Fun times. So they announced that the neighborhood was evolving into the city, and it just looks mad. Have you all had a chance to check it out? What were your thoughts? It scares me that it's becoming Sims meets basketball, but in a good way. Tom, your thoughts on it?
I didn't see the video, but I wasn't a huge fan of the neighborhood last year when it was. I mean, it was quite big, so it took you ages to like run to different places. So I don't know if they're going to add a feature where you can just like fast track, which I would appreciate quite a lot.
You can buy skateboards and bikes.
That'll help. As long as it don't cost a lot of actual money to buy, I'm in. But yeah, I think not to sound like a grandma, but all the footage I've seen of the next gen gameplay, it just looks like a real NBA game, and it blows my mind every time when you can see the sweat and the lighting and all that kind of thing. I'm so excited to see how it's going to play on my TV. So I'm a bit sad I'm not actually getting a new console this week, but I'm excited to see people's reactions to it. So,
Josh?
Yeah, I'm similar. I'm not getting the new console, in the immediate future. And for that reason, I'm trying to be sensible and block out all temptation, but I have. It kind of snuck into my, into my eye line, the new city. Looks unbelievable. It does really look like Grand Theft Auto combined with an NBA game. And the reason it scares me, Mike, is because I'm starting to get to that point where, I'm realizing how famous and rich a lot of YouTubers are. I'm feeling washed. I feel as though everything has passed me by at this point, at the age of 31. And I feel that in 2 to 3 years, I'm going to look at an NBA game and not recognize any of it. And you know what? It terrifies me.
Scary, isn't it? That I say I'm including you in this bucket. Yeah. We're almost out of the demographic for the NBA. How mad is that? It is seriously scary. One thing that got my attention was the mayors. Did you see this? There's 4 boroughs and each one has a mayor elected every 6 weeks.
What are they? Actual players?
Yeah. So the first 4 mayors are YouTube influencers being selected by 2K themselves. Then they'll run for re-election in 6 weeks' time, and they get to make decisions on the type of tournaments, the jerseys they wear. They can put advertising around the city. It seems mad. It's just blows my mind that is actually something that's a playable part of the game.
I hope all votes are counted properly.
Yeah. Or if you're on the winning team, that they stop counting them before.
Because that's how democracy works.
That is. And just on 2K, I've got a contractual agreement with Kirk that I need to mention ray tracing. I still don't know what it means, so it's something to do with light. Anyway, we're running out of time, so we're going to move on to nothing but Nick's silly nonsense. And this week, who are David Robinson's contenders for the greatest shoulders in NBA history? And who do you back for the title? So let's get some names. Dean's left. I'm on that note, Dean has left. Dean's joined. Welcome back, G-Shaq.
It was when Josh went dark with the whole isn't it, with the NBA.
He couldn't handle it anymore. But okay, greatest shoulders in NBA history. I wasn't sure if it was just the deltoids we should be looking at, or whether it was the traps as well. So we can decide for ourselves. But he is back. He's back in the room. Josh, who did you have down for the greatest shoulders in NBA history to challenge the Admiral, David Robinson?
Well, firstly, this question blew my mind because I had no idea about this thing about Kylie Minogue. I didn't really know what Nick was on about, and then because of that, I broke a massive rule of mine, which is to never read the Daily Mail. But it was the only article I could find, so I looked at basically, so apparently she's got these perfect shoulders. I never knew anything about that, but anyway. There are a few players that come to mind. One I won't name because I know that someone might end up naming him. But this person has muscles on his shoulders that I didn't even know existed on the human body. He looks like he's evolving in like a Vincent Price film, or like he's like maybe half dinosaur. I don't know. It's unbelievable. But my actual answer, sorry about that. My actual answer is Dwight Howard because he's always been built like a Marvel supervillain. The roundness of his shoulders, makes competing against him for a rebound seem like some kind of impossible job. And I believe he might have called himself Chocolate Shoulders online once, which is, I don't know what to even think about that. But sorry, yeah, there's my answer, Dwight Howard.
Dwight Howard. That's a good shout. See, I didn't realise that the shoulder reference was to Kylie. Now, for anyone who's not in our Discord community, this is a great time for me to plug it again. It's discord.me/doubleclutch. Basically, Nick's phone went mad and he tried to type Kyrie for a separate conversation. It kept typing Kylie. So obviously that sent us down a random rabbit hole. So random rabbit holes about Australian singers who are for some reason huge in the UK is your cup of tea. Wow, yeah, there you go, another British reference. Then come on over to the Discord. Tom, your favourite shoulders.
I don't know how I followed Josh on that monologue there, but it's between Dwight Howard and Karl Malone for me. I think Karl Malone was maybe more arms if you go in deep into the argument, but it's between those two.
I think you'll find a link between the guys with awesome arms and awesome shoulders.
Yeah, there might be.
There is definitely like a strong correlation there. So we've got Karl Malone and we've got Dwight. Ginger Shaq. Who have you got for greatest shoulders in the NBA?
It's got to be Drummond, isn't it?
Has he had them like lasered now? They're not hairy anymore.
It's the greatest, not hairiest.
Like they're amazing. It's almost like Chewbacca meets Center. It's beautiful.
Wow.
Okay, Andre Drummond. That would be mad. I remember one time he was saying he wouldn't shave them or de-hair them, but I believe he now has. Not that I've looked that closely at his shoulders, which is surprising because he's the league's leading rebounder. We probably ought to see more of his shoulders. I've gone. See, you've all gone for bigs. You've gone for bigs. I've gone for one of the most underrated sets of shoulders in league history. Derek Fisher.
Mm-hmm. Not bad.
Derek Fisher was like as he was like as wide as he was tall at one point, I swear, and his shoulders were just like you remember those trapezoids up here with his like jersey was up here because of it.
I'm googling it just to take a look at these bad boys.
Derek Fisher's shoulders. They were maybe they just like grown in my memory, but I just think they were just incredible specimens of shoulders.
Speaking of Derek's, I think Derek Rose has always been quite round in the shoulder department. I can't believe what we're talking about.
Which Derek?
This is Nick silly nonsense.
To Derek Rose. Oh my god! When you're saying something and you laugh because you can't believe it's coming out of your mouth. I can't believe we're at this point. I love Nick's nonsense.
So yes or no? Do any of them beat David Robinson's impeccable shoulders?
I think it's a no, isn't it? It's got to be a no.
I agree.
Those are something.
3 no's. So the Admiral is undefeated in his quest for the shoulder title. Okay, yeah, Discord. I plugged it a minute ago, so I won't plug it again. Get over there. We've got 116 people in now. We've had a few listener questions come in. From Jonah, which players do the pod not like, but know that they're unreasonable not to like them? E.g., for me, it's George Hill, because he was who the Pacers gave away Kawhi for. I know that Kawhi probably would have got his ass out of Indy pretty ASAP, and it's not George Hill's fault, but the unreasonable part of me thinks that prime PG and San Antonio level Kawhi could have got us somewhere. So, who do you hate in the league, unreasonably so, Tom?
A a lot of mine are 2K related, I think. So like if I sign someone
that's
on
unreasonable
2K
enough.
and they've been terrible, I always think like a lot of bigs on when you play my GM or my league don't really translate. So like Towns and Jokic, I just can't play with them as well on the game as they do in real life. So I think Towns for me, I've got this like hatred against him for not fulfilling his potential, even though he's so good in real life. So
not fulfilling his potential on your game.
On my game, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, that seems pretty unreasonable. Ginger Shaq, who you got?
Monte Ellis.
Okay.
But the reason being, much like Tom's, for about 4 consistent years, that man was like a virus to my micro. Like I'd leave a conference so that I wouldn't be playing against him as regularly, and he'd sign for like it was every game. He'd lock me down. Honestly, like I'd watch games and Monte Ellis would be on them. I mean, obviously not so much anymore. Gutted for him. And I'd just get mad. Like, I'd want him to miss a shot. I had nightmares that he'd sign for the Bulls and I'd have to like him.
that does seem pretty unreasonable. Okay, excellent. Josh, who you got?
Mine's just about as unreasonable as it gets because, I think a lot of these kind of dislikes are always shaped by fandom. So guess who I'm going to say? I'm going to say LeBron James. I'm long past the denial phase. Don't worry. I do, acknowledge him as one of the greatest ever. But boy, does he make it hard for me to dislike him. He's opening schools. He's speaking out against oppression and just being impossibly good at basketball. But when you see someone crush your dreams as much as LeBron has over the years, then he makes it really hard to cross over the line from highly respect to like. So I think it's going to be, especially now he's in purple and gold, it's going to be, a few years after his retirement where I can finally go, you know what? I like LeBron James.
I think that's a record for you. I think we're 52 minutes into the pod, and this is the first Boston reference you've made. So, hat tip, proverbial hat tip to you, sir.
This, I don't know what to say. I wanted to just leave that as awkwardly silent as possible, just to, to give you bad radio, bad podcast in return for your comments.
If I'm on it, it's usually bad, so don't worry about it. Me is Melo. I just have never just liked him. I don't know why. Denver, I was off site. No, he's greedy on offense. He doesn't share the ball. Then I'm like, everyone's saying he's the best player bar LeBron, and he got to one Western Conference final and sucked the life out of the Knicks. Not that I like the Knicks either, so maybe that's part of it. But
what doesn't help as well?
Hate him.
What doesn't help that, Mike? You're completely with you. What doesn't help that is the constant nonsense when he wasn't in the league last year. He did well when he came back in, but it's like you don't get to look back in time and pretend that he was better than he was. Look, he helped a team last year. All this kind of everyone's sleeping on LeBron on Twitter is like on Melo. No one's sleeping on LeBron. Sleeping on Melo thing was just exhausting in the end. Look, he will eventually sign for someone. He'll be able to help someone if it's the right fit, but he's not elite, and he hasn't been for many years.
And with a nod back to Ginger Shaq's comment about Monta signing for the Bulls, well, having gone through that with him signing for the Blazers, I still don't like him.
No.
Yeah. What are you going to do? A next question from Rich Barrett from NBA UK fans. Question for me. Oh, look at me. Fan mail. After some sensational performances on the first installment of NBA UK Mastermind, for anyone who's not going to check that out, go and check it out. It's fantastic. How do you feel heading into Saturday night's live televised game? So I'm on it next week, and I told Rich beforehand that I don't deal well with pressure, especially quiz pressure. So, Kirk, you might want to bleep this, but I'm shitting it. I genuinely, I watched it back, and it was great. And you're on it the week after me, Josh, so you can jump in a second. But I didn't watch it live because I had other stuff to do. I'm very sorry, but I did watch it back. Not only did I watch it back, I had a pen and paper, and went through, and I was playing it as it went, and there were some guys on there who I much respect for their knowledge. It was very, 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 very good. But not looking forward to it is the answer. So if I suddenly have, I don't know, like an early 90s playoff migraine or something on Saturday, then you'll understand why. Josh, you're on it the week after, I think. So how are you feeling?
I'm feeling nervous as well, Mike. And the reason is the reason why I couldn't be a referee. It's that I always think like 2 seconds behind when I really should have. And I feel like those quick decisions have been like, oh, yeah, of course it is. I'm always saying, oh, yeah, I knew that, And when I was watching the stream, I was thinking, yeah, you know what? I knew that I would have just needed 2 more seconds. So, I'm deliberating on what my specialist subject is going to be, but I am nervous.
Yep, I don't blame you. Ginger Shaq, you must have watched it. What did you think?
I caught up with it on Sunday, and I was very impressed. And beginning of it, I was like, I might give this a go, I might give it a go. And then I sat down and was like, I don't think I can circle into a specialist subject. Like, and then I'm not even playing it, and I was like, no, it's fine. Like, I'll let Mike crash and burn on Saturday, and then I'll be fine with it.
Yeah, that's going to be must-see viewing. Tom, you a big fan of Mastermind? Think you can handle an NBA one?
Not unless it was like very recent, which I do not think it will be. So
well, you pick your specialist subject. The general knowledge one had a good mixture, I thought, and then the specialist subject, one of them was 2012 Philadelphia onwards. One of them was 2019-20 rosters. One of them was Russell Westbrook, and one of them was Dame Lillard. So they're all pretty recent. There's no like games played before the key was installed. Thanks, George Mikan. I think you'd be all right. You get to pick your specialist subject.
That's true. I think I'd be better than Charles Barkley is at who he played for if I did some kind of specialism around that. So, although it's not hard.
Do it. Please do your specialist subject as who he played for. Next question. This should be a quick one from the host of NBA UK Fans Mastermind, Matt Hardy at UK Nets Fans. That was a long intro for him. Very simply, given the question, Woj or Shams?
It's definitely become close in terms of like legitimacy in recent years, but I will always ride for Woj, because
he was a Celtics ball boy.
No, not just that. Stop trying that, Mike. Stop trying to make me talk more about the Celtics. No, it's just because of that one draft night where he became a walking thesaurus, because that's one of the greatest nights in NBA history. So I'm sticking with Woj.
Woj, Tom.
Yeah, Woj is the master for me. Shams is the apprentice who's slowly on the way up behind him and has been trained by him, but will never quite eclipse him until he steps out of the game. So
fair. Ginger Shaq.
Well, you've got a Woj bomb, ain't you? So like, it's as simple as that. Like, you don't have like a sham shocker. So like,
someone asked on Discord a month or so back about what it should be called, and my suggestion was a sham dunk. But for me, it's still Woj who, but I think Shams is in the last couple of seasons has really upped it, and I feel like since his temporary ban, Woj has been a little bit off. I don't know what it is. Maybe he didn't get banned for swearing at a senator. Maybe it was PEDs. Who knows? Next question. Ben Bean 5. I want your favourite NBA-related US election meme. We'll go to Tom first.
So there was one, I wanted to mention at the start of this. We spoke last week about having Mike Breen commentate on the different results being called. And then there was, in fact, a meme of someone, he put Mike Breen's voice over Georgia being turned from Republican to Democrat, and he just screams, bang, and it changed colours, which was one of my favourites. My actual favourite was Dame Lillard hitting the buzzer beater, but it was Joe Biden hitting it over Donald Trump, and then Donald Trump just walks off with his head down, which is my favourite. But...
Excellent choice, Ginger Shaq.
It's got to be the picture that LeBron put up of the block. Like we'd seen it on the internet before, but then to actually have like LeBron James actually posted it on all of his social medias, like Insta, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, MySpace. Like it just epitomized it, really, didn't it? And it was such an awful edit that it was beautiful. It was
Josh.
Yeah.
Well, those two were amazing. Those are the two that I had written down, because the one where Mike Breen screams is amazing because his voice breaks. It's just the best bit of commentary ever. But I'm probably going to say the other one is Biden stepping over.
That's good.
Stepping over he who shall no longer be named, in the style of Allen Iverson. Loved it.
Especially seeing as it was the Sixers. It was a Philadelphia, which obviously played a huge part in that. That was fantastic. I liked Nick Young, who the old Nick Young where he turns around and just because the shot's about to miss. Nick Young posted this.
Oh, right.
So where he shoots and the shot comes out, but he had Donald Trump's face over him, and it was poetic to say the least. So. Awesome. Great question. Very quickly then, because we're now running over. We haven't got games of the week to watch. So which franchise should you start your My League career with? Very quickly. We're not even going to have time to rationalise this. Tom, who are you picking?
The Knicks. Always a bad team for me. So
terrible ownership. Why would you go there? Ginger Shaq, who are you picking?
Memphis.
Oh, that's who I've picked. All right, carry on. Good choice. Fantastic choice, in fact. Lots of cap room and an excellent star to grow around. Josh?
Excellent star, young roster, great city, the New Orleans Pelicans.
Yep, good shout. I'm going to change mine then, because otherwise it's just boring, really. And I'm going to go with the Cavs, because that's an absolute dumpster fire. So if it doesn't work, they can't blame me.
That's a bad strip, though. You've got to have a good strip if you're going to be playing with them for a long time. And it's just a bad kit.
Oh, you can take the boy out of Stoke.
Sorry.
Right. Thank you to everyone for dropping in tonight. Thank you for all the follows that we've had on Twitch and Discord in recent weeks. We've had a load of new articles go up. Sid Mahaptra, an ode to the best guards of the NBA bubble. Aoife Kane, the rise of Sabrina, the next face of the WNBA. Josh Coyne had a new BBL pod out with Justin Robinson and Dirk Williams from the London Lions, where you can hear Josh say the words freshness. And Sean Guest, in his Step Back series, has a latest one called Bye Bye Bynum, which if you sing it in the style of a 90s band makes a lot more sense. Ginger Shaq, thank you very much for coming on this week's episode. Where can people find you?
You can find me at Ginger Shaq on Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, and basically anything. Just Ginger Shaq. And also follow NBA UK fans if you don't already, and listen to the Throwback podcast. Episode dropped today.
Episode 4 dropped today. I will be checking it out later. I think that covers everything, lads. Thank you very much. Thank you for getting me through this on my 2 tiny screens. And I won't be getting a new console because I need to buy a new computer. Make sure you're following us at Double Clutch UK on all social medias. The Twitch is twitch.tv/DoubleClutchUK. The Discord is discord.me/DoubleClutch. We'll see you next time.
See you soon.
I'm sorry. I've been very nice to you, although I could probably maybe not be based on the way you have treated me, but I wouldn't do that.